What is up, YouTube? This is Magician34, and today's edition of The Edge I am going to use to bring you a card that I think a lot of people have kind of overlooked. While some players have considered putting it to use and they may tech one or two copies, I think a lot of folks just broke it from the pack, kind of said, that's a good idea, and then promptly forgot about it while in the midst of pursuing other things. And today's card is Silent Lab. It's a stadium that makes it to where each basic Pokemon in play and in each player's hand, and in each player's discard pile has no abilities. Which is pretty amazing. Now, when I first read this, I actually misread it, and I was under the impression that it was all Pokemon lost their abilities, but no, it's just basic Pokemon. Now, this doesn't shut off primal traits, of course, that's a little bit different. But what this basically means is, this is a very powerful way to mostly rain on other people's parades, but we can also use it to do some very good things for ourselves. And I think rather than, just give you one or two examples, I'm just going to let them rain on you, basically, and let you just kind of think about it. First of all, think about Virizion Ax. Well, now all of a sudden you can actually use things like Hypnotoxic Laser and other statuses. Well, that's not too bad. Or how about Genesect? Well, that's not bad. Now you don't have to worry about getting red signaled by them. Well, that's Virizion right there. They're a lot less scary without their abilities. Or how about Aegislash EX? One of the newest, really scary defensive cards, as so many decks rely upon double colorless energy or strong energy. With Silent Lab, his ability turns off, and now he's kind of an overcosted, underrated attacker with nothing else to show for himself. Or how about Calgo EX? His rush in, all of a sudden it doesn't work anymore, and you can float stone him, but you're still going to have to retreat to get into the Calgo and manually retreat the Calgo, and then, without his rush in, he kind of doesn't really matter very much. And speaking of people who like to run away and retreat, who don't look so good with Silent Lab, how about Darkride EX? Well, you can attach all the dark energies you want, but now you're just attacking with them. And Darkride, once again, is kind of an overcosted attacker at that point, with not enough going for him in this environment to justify him without his ability. How about Dragonite EX? He can't bust in and suddenly get 3 energies out of nowhere anymore. You just bench him and he's kind of an underwhelming attacker. Well, you kind of get the idea. All these EXs, in fact any EX with an ability kind of looks underwhelming with Silent Lab around. And a lot of decks do kind of rely on these abilities and their strategies in order to be successful. Of course, there are also safeguarders to consider. You can shut off Sigilif or Suicune this way, and you don't have to worry about them being something that you have to burn a Lysander just to get around for one turn or something like that. All of a sudden they're not threatening at all. In fact, you can play Silent Lab as a surprise to swiftly knock out threats like this, so that even if they replay another stadium later, they've still lost their safeguarder in the meantime. Well, of course, there's also cards like Execute. Execute isn't necessarily super integral, but it is something that gains a lot of card advantage, which over time can come back to haunt you against decks that do run Execute. And Silent Lab affects areas like the discard pile, so Execute doesn't do anything there, and he's just a really bad basic Pokemon at that point. So not so useful. I mean, he may power up a Flareon, but that's about all he'll be good for. And, less kind of considered by a lot of people, think about Wobbuffet for a moment. Wobbuffet likes to turn off abilities himself, when he's the active Pokemon anyway. But he turns off all Pokemon abilities, at least for things that aren't psychic. So for you, that's probably bad news if you like to use the abilities of evolved Pokemon, which aren't affected by Silent Lab. But you can actually use Silent Lab to turn Wobbuffet off so that your evolved Pokemon's abilities will work again. So it's sort of selective control, which is actually pretty nice, because Pokemon is a game of often sort of generalized abilities. And here you can actually play with much more specific interactions, which is kind of cool. Of course, Silent Lab isn't all about blocking things. Sometimes it can be about supporting things. Like, say, Bronzong, who loves, especially against cards like this, the ability to go on uninterfered with. And he likes not being red signaled either. And Silent Lab doesn't block his Metal Links at all. It also doesn't block Aromatisse's Fairy Transfer. Aromatisse can still move energies around all it wants, because it's an evolved Pokemon. But then again, maybe we're kind of going backwards at this. Some Pokemon actually want their abilities turned off, like Team Magma's Groudon EX, or Team Aqua's Kyogre EX, who really would like their abilities to be turned off so that they don't have to worry about counting how many Magma or Aqua Pokemon are in play in order to be able to attack. They can just attack, and all of a sudden they're very hefty HP powerhouse attackers who you can support with Pokemon who aren't Team Magma or Team Aqua, giving you a lot more versatility to play with. And in fact, that's practically a deck in and of itself that I think might warrant some attention in the future. So anyway, that is your tech card for today on The Edge. And until next time, like, comment, subscribe, check me out on Twitter, my link is below, and I will see you guys next time on my channel with more Pokemon content.